What's going on, everybody? Well, we did it. One more horror franchise in the can. The Scream reviews are wrapped up, and that means it's time for a ranking video. So, all 4 Scream movies. Yes, I'm not including the TV series. I've never seen them. I might watch them. I might review them eventually, but I just want to talk about the movies. So, for the 1,000 of you that are probably going to ask that question down below, I just save you some time. All 4 movies, we're going to rank them right now. I had a lot of fun going over this franchise. This is a franchise that I've had kind of a shaky past with. If you watch my reviews, I'll give you every reason why, but I've come to really appreciate them and really be a fan of these movies. And it was fun going through all 4 of them, and thank you guys for watching and making a very successful review series. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Now, all 4 Scream movies, ranking worst to best. Let's start off with number 4. This should be no surprise to anybody, especially if you see my reviews. Scream 3. Now, previous to me reviewing this movie, I was actually kind of a Scream 3 defender. I never thought this movie was as bad as everybody says it is. And I still would echo that. I think that people are really over-exaggerating how bad Scream 3 is, but it's definitely bad. Like, rewatching it this past time, it hasn't aged very well. I saw a lot of the flaws that everybody had been telling me for years I never really saw before because I wasn't that invested in the franchise. I mean, you get Sidney Prescott, who's kind of takes a back seat for 2/3 of the movie. You get a really convoluted and over-the-top story involving Ghostface and Sidney's mother, Maureen Prescott, and you spend a lot of time with exposition and all this storyline on a character that we never even got to know because she was dead before the first Scream movie, so kind of a waste. All of the side characters in this movie are garbage. Like, I didn't like a single one of the new cast involving, like, the actors who are playing our Woodsboro characters in this Stab 3 movie. Thought they were all terrible. Even Parker Posey, who's kind of known for being that weird, hateable role where she's just annoying, she just annoyed me. It wasn't like enjoyable annoying, it was get the fuck out of here annoying. Not very good kills. The movie got hacked down quite a bit because it was along the time of the Columbine murders, or the Columbine killings, so we had kind of, the MPAA was very strict on violence, as well as the writers and the directors, they kind of wanted to tone it down a bit. There is some enjoyability here. I mean, I like the reveal of the Ghostface killer in Roman. I like his motivations, even though the journey we took to get there was a little bit convoluted. I think the third act of this movie is definitely action-packed and kick-ass. I think Sidney Prescott, when she is in the movie, is probably the most kick-ass that she's been in 4 movies because she just beats the shit out of Roman over and over, and they have a fucking fight like 2 men going at it. So I like some things about Scream 3, and I still think it's a watchably bad movie, but to me, it is clearly the worst of this franchise. So number 4 is Scream 3. Now, for those of you guys who have been following me for a while, more times than not, when I get to number 2 and number 1, I always have a big kind of crisis. Which one do I pick? There's always 2 movies at the top that I struggle with which one I like more times than not. And I always give this big speech about, well, I like this, and if you ask me today, it'll be this one. You ask me tomorrow, it'll be this one. Well, I don't have that problem in Scream. The problem that I have with Scream is what's my second favorite and what's my third favorite. Because from here on out, like aside from Scream 3, I think all 3 of these next movies are all damn good. And they are all very close to each other in quality. They all have their pros, they all have their cons. So the top 3 of this list, pretty damn consistent. And I have always contended that, previous to Cult of Chucky, Child's Play and Scream are probably the most consistent slasher franchises out there, where all the other big ones are, tons of hills and valleys. So with all that being said, again, if you ask me today, my number 3 is this. If you ask me tomorrow, it might be my number 2. But as of the recording of this video, my definitive ranking of the Scream franchise, my number 3 is Scream 4. I really love Scream 4. There's a lot of things about this movie that I think are damn good, and I think it is easily the most underappreciated of this entire franchise, because I've seen just as many people comment on my Scream 3 review about, well, this movie's bad, but it's not as bad as Scream 4, and comment on my Scream 4 review, what, this movie is terrible, it's so much worse than Scream 3, which baffles me. I'll never understand that. But I think Scream 4 has easily the strongest side characters surrounding our original cast of Sidney Prescott, Dewey, and Gale Weathers since the first movie. I love all the new characters. I love Jill, I love Kirby, especially Kirby. She's the best character in this franchise since Randy, in my opinion. I think that the Ghostface killer reveals were great, the way they were trying to remake the Woodsboro murders from the first movie. I think that the motivations for the killers was really cool and twisted, especially with Jill and her whole reveal, and how psychotic she went in the third act, and that third act is just batshit insane. I think it's the goriest of any of the movies. I mean, you got a whole slew of guts that exploded out on this girl's bed in the first kill of the movie, so it's very bloody. I think that it's a very fun take as far as the time that it came out, as kind of a throwback to old school slashers. As far as the negatives, which you can get into my regular review for all of my negatives and my positives, I'm just kind of summarizing it here. There's a weird thing they do with like the color correction and like this shine, this lighting that they do in the movie that's kind of odd and jarring. I think that the third act goes on a little bit too long, and I feel like there's some missed opportunity there and not commenting more on the current state of horror when this came out in, what was it, like 2011 or something like that. I think that there was some missed opportunity there. So I really love Scream 4, but I think that my number 2 and my number 1, especially my number 1, are just a little bit better than Scream 4. So damn good movie though. Scream 4 being number 3 is not a knock. My number 2 is Scream 2. Previous to me reviewing these movies, Scream 2 is my favorite for the longest time. I kept saying that. Scream 2 is a little bit better than the first one. Scream 2 is the best. I always felt like it was an unpopular opinion, which I'm kind of popular for having unpopular opinions. But when I watched it this previous time, it didn't hold up quite as well for me. Whereas my number 1, which Process of Elimination, if you already know what it is, held up a little bit better. So with Scream 2, I think the positives with that are I think that the Ghostface killer reveals are pulled off much better because I really did not figure out who the killers were, whereas my number 1 I did. I think that the kills are not quite as gory, but there's a little bit more creativity there than in the first movie, where you have like the guy that gets the pole shoved through his face and the car crash and everything, but just a slight edge. I love all the new characters like Timothy Olyphant and Jerry O'Connell. That whole scene when he's singing to Sydney, I love that scene. It's kind of a callback to Top Gun. I really like Sidney Prescott in this movie. I love how she like evolves and she's so much stronger than she was in the first movie, and she's not a victim anymore. I think that the movie is very well paced. I think that it hits a lot of the same comedy, a lot of the same high notes of the first movie, just not quite as fresh. The first movie got there first, so it feels slightly like diminished returns on Scream 2. And then you have the whole thing with Randy's death, which I spoke on. I think it's actually a really ballsy move for this second movie, and it made it have like this whole high stakes thing about anybody could be a victim now. But going on in the franchise, I think the franchise did suffer slightly having Randy killed off in the second movie. So those are all my thoughts, kind of summarized. Again, watch my full review if you want all my thoughts. But Scream 2, huge fan of Scream 2. Again, number 2 is not a knock. But my number 1, which is brand new for me, is the original Scream. And this might be one of the only rankings where I actually have the original movie at number 1. That's usually not something I do. But the first Scream, this is a movie that I did not appreciate for a very long time. A short version of the story is basically when I was growing up, I was a horror fan. Nobody else was in my grade as far as my friends. Scream came out, all of a sudden everybody was a horror fan, and it just drove me nuts. And I never really gave this movie a chance. Later on in life, started to appreciate it. Big fan of it now. This movie really reset the stage for horror and slashers in the early 90s or the mid 90s when it was really starting to die out. Such a smart and creative script by Kevin Williamson. Wes Craven, I mean, the dude's just the master. He comes in and he just makes another instant classic with Scream. I love how it kind of plays on the slasher genre while at the same time kind of subverting some of those expectations of the cliches that we know. All great characters for the most part. Wasn't a huge fan of Dewey. That was one of the only characters that is in the first movie. I never thought he was a very good character. I liked him much more in Scream 2. The opening to Scream, like the biggest thing I can praise Scream about, that opening like 7 or 8 minutes, easily the greatest opening to any horror movie ever, and possibly in the conversation for greatest opening to any movie ever. I mean, it just starts this movie with a punch, and it's awesome. It's scary as fuck, it's creative, it's funny, it's cool. There is no flaws whatsoever with the opening of Scream. It is a masterpiece all on its own. So, not going to go on for too long. Again, guys, if this is you're seeing this video for the first time, you haven't seen any of my reviews, check out the reviews for all my thoughts. But for the most part, those are all my thoughts on Scream. Just a huge fan now of this franchise. Still not my favorite slasher franchise by any means, but I'm much more appreciative of what this franchise did for the horror genre and much more of a fan of these movies now, and I'm glad that I finally got there. So thank you guys for watching all my reviews. Thank you for checking out this ranking. What is your ranking of the Scream franchise? Put your thoughts down below. What's your favorite scary movie? Put that down below as well. Thank you guys for watching. Keep an eye out because I'm going to be starting the Halloween franchise very soon, going all the way through to October 19th for the new movie. Gonna re-rank that franchise, and then me and a bunch of friends on YouTube will be ranking the big three, which I've told you guys about a few times, and keep an eye out for more updates on that video if this is the first time you're even hearing anything about it. So check all that out, guys. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you want to check out some of my social media links, check down below in the video description for my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my Spreadshirt store for Cody Leach t-shirt and other merchandise, which have some very cool designs you guys should check out. And it also includes the Evil Dead design at the end of all my videos, designed by the great Woody Bowen. So check that out. If you want to check out my Patreon page as well, that's down below. A great way to give back to this channel, help it grow, and get cool exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron, such as the ability to choose reviews or top 5 videos or a topic for a video for me to do, and access to the Blu-ray digital copy codes that I get in all of my Blu-rays almost every single week. I give all those away to my patrons for free. So check that out, guys. If you want to check that out, please. If you want to check out the Scream reviews, all 4 of them, you can check those out by clicking right over here.